Hello, everyone. Let's start with this session. So, my name is Nav Singh. I'm from Montreal, working as a mobile software engineer at Manulife and Google Developer Expert for Android. So, in this talk, I will go through the what are the new features and behavioral changes that are introduced in Android 13, and some of the IDE improvements that are announced in the last Google I/O for Compose and overall, which helps the developers productivity improvements. So we will first go through the Android 13 improvements and the features and the changes that are there, and then I will demo some of the new features that are available on the Canary channel for Android Studio. So it's Android 13, which is called T, and I think it's our time to update our target SDK to 33 because we are almost in the final release. The currently we are at platform stability. It's I think beta 4, so all the testing is pretty much done. All the APIs are stable. Whatever is introduced in this release, and probably by end of August or September we have the final release for Android 13. So these are the behavioral changes that are introduced in Android 13. The first one is the runtime notification permission. So this is considered as a UX improvement. So if you remember, like currently see the behavior of how we implement the notifications in Android is like we can directly throw the notifications with our application, like we don't need any permissions from the end user. But now with this permission, like it's basically same, like we have a permissions for read external storage or any other permissions that are there for, and this is a runtime permission. And with this permission, what is like changed for the notifications is like if you want to send the notifications, you first need to ask to the user, like prompt with the notification permission, and if they allow your application, then we can only send the notifications. And it also behaves differently for it's based on your target SDK. So if you are targeting 33, which is coming, which is and in that case we have full control wherever we want to ask for a permission. For example, if you have any use case where something like successful use cases, like the user has done something in your application and you want to prompt that, hey, we want to send you the notifications for anything, for example the status of your claim or something like that, you have full control for the notification permission. But in case of the target SDK, which is lower than 33, in those cases, the the notification permission works is like whenever you create a first notification channel in your application, at that point the system will ask for the notification permission. And there is also another consideration when we are not targeting 33. It's like if user has denies the permission for the notifications for the older versions, we will never able to ask again until user uninstall the app or we update our target SDK for our application. So it's the best if we can, as soon as possible, we update the target SDK for our application for the note, and then we have full control over the notification permission. And the second one is the exact alarm permission. It's basically, if you have remembered that Android 12 introduced this permission, but now on top of this one, there is a new permission which is used for alarms. And this permission can only be used if your applications categories for timer related applications or alarms and calendar related applications. And if your application wants to use this permission, then the Play Store will review your application to make sure that you are not abusing the alarm related permissions. So if your application is under the one of the categories for alarms or reminders, stuff like that, you can use this permission. Otherwise, if you are using alarms for any other use cases, you can still use the old permission, which is exact alarm permission. Then the third one is the granular media permissions. So before 33, if you remember, we have the read external storage. So it doesn't matter if we are reading media files or videos, images, or whatever, like the documents, we have only one permission. But now there are more granular permissions for a media. Like for me, there is a specific permission for images, then there is a specific for videos. I will show you in the next slide for that. The next one is the Wi-Fi permission. It's the it's basically the improvement also in terms of the privacy. Like if you remember in Android 12, we have new permissions for Bluetooth. Like we cannot derive the user's location from the Bluetooth if we are accessing the Bluetooth related functionality in our applications. With the nearby Wi-Fi devices permission, that's the basically the extended functionality that's derived from the Bluetooth permissions to the Wi-Fi permission. So if you want to access the nearby Wi-Fi devices, you can use this new permission, and you will not able to access the user's location from the Wi-Fi related functionality. So it's basically improving to like more privacy related stuff. The next one is the Foreground Service Task Manager. So if any application in our Android phone is running any foreground service, we can see those services in the notification drawer, right? But with this new task manager, like user have full control over the foreground services. Like it shows in the notification drawer, and user can stop any service from there. Like there is an action for each service whatever is running, and it shows all the services. And if users wants to stop any kind of like any service from there, it will automatically stop the application if it's running. So it's not just stopping the foreground service, but it will also stop the related application. The next one we have the intent filters. So this is the improvement, like how the intents are delivered to the another applications. So for explicit intents or implicit intents, like if the intents that we want to start from our application, they must need to satisfy the criteria that is defined in the target intent. So for example, if there are intent filters, for example, for data type that it wants to support only MIME type for plain text, and the action is send or whatever action is there. If those intent filters are doesn't match with the when we want to launch the intent, it will not trigger. And the last one is the clipboard sensitive data protection. I will explain that in the coming slides. So those are the behavioral changes, and these are some of the new features that are introduced in Android 13. The first one is per app language preferences. So we have a new API or the new support for from Activity version 1.6, which is currently is in beta. It provides the support that we can implement the per app language preferences so that user can change the language from the application, or our application can contribute to the system level settings from where user can only change the language for our application rather than changing the system level language. The second is new tool, which is for photo picker. So this tool is used is helpful for if we want to provide a support for pick images or videos in our application, we can use this tool. And this tool doesn't require any runtime permissions, so we don't need to check if we have read external storage or image related permissions are granted for application. We can directly use this for a picker. I will demo in the next slides. The third one is predictive back gesture, and this is introduced in 13, and it also needs it's a lot of work. I think this is the one of the features that I have so far found is required much work if you have custom back navigation implementation in your application. So basically, it provides the preview where your user is going back when they are performing the back gesture in your application, so that they are actually getting the idea. Like if for example, if we are in the web browser, whether we are going to the back page or it goes back to the home screen, so it shows the little preview, like preview window behind the current screen when user performs the back gesture. And then there is a new UI for Clipboard preview. Whenever user copy any data, it shows the new UI. I will show that in the next slides. The next one, the tile API, it is for adding quick tiles to the quick settings. So before, sometimes user doesn't know that even if you are providing any sort of quick settings tile in your application, because there is no way that we can ask users to like, hey, you want to add this settings API tile in your quick settings. But now there is a way. In the status bar manager, they added a method which we can use to add a quick settings. Like we can prompt the user if they want to add quick setting tile in the settings for application. And the next one is the themed icons. This is for extension on Material 3, which is introduced in Android 12. So I will explain in the next slide. I have a. Then the last Bluetooth low energy devices support introduced in 13, and then the support for MIDI 2.0 standard. I will not cover these two like in details, but I have added the references that you can check, like what is Bluetooth LE devices and then the MIDI 2.0. So these are the new permissions. First one is the notification for the notifications that we need to, if we want to send notifications and we want to ask for permission first. And then there are screenshots that I took from the sample application. And the next two, like they are specifically for like the next three are for specifically for a media. Like if you only want to access images, you can only ask for images. Same for audio, then videos. And the last one is this is the new permission, which is use exact alarm. It's the that I discussed earlier, like that was in Android 12, but this is in 13. And this permission can only be used for applications that are specifically for created under the category of calendars and reminders or timer-related applications. And this is basically we just need to declare in the manifest the last like the use exact alarm, and then we don't need to worry about like at the runtime if we have the permission or not. So these are the two methods that are introduced for downgrading the permissions that our application is currently having. Like if your application is currently having some permissions that you think you are not using, or you want to improve your application's overall experience, like you don't want to access the permissions that you don't need, then there is a this is the new features that are introduced. The first one is revoke self permission on kill. And the second is when you want to revoke multiple permissions, it takes an array of permissions. The first one is take for a single permission, but it doesn't execute it immediately. Like for example, if we launch, like if we call this, the system will check the current status of the application. If it's in the background for extended period of time, it will automatically kill the application, and the next time application will start, this will affect like it will be in effect, and all the permissions that you have passed in, they will be revoked for the current for your application. So if you know, like in Android 12, we have safer exported, like we need to define the exported component flag for all the activities or services or receivers that we have in our application in manifest file. So there is another improvement for the context related when we register our receivers with the context, like runtime register. So it takes two parameters, like the new parameter, which is receiver exported or not exported. Like if you want, your receiver can accept the communication from different other applications, you can pass this. And currently, to test this behavior, we need to go to the compatibility changes under the developer options. Then there is a flag which is highlighted in the circle, which is dynamic receiver exported. You just turn it on, and then you can test your application and see how your application behaves, and then you can fix the behavior like according to your requirements. So this is the photo picker tool, and I really like this one because it, I think it's more under the category for developer experience and as well as the UX experience. Because from the developer perspective, I don't need to care about any permissions if I want to provide a functionality for pick images or videos. And from the user perspective, like if all the applications implement or use this tool, then it provides better consistency so that user feel same across different applications. So there are a couple of things that we need to take in care here. The by default limit is 1, so that if we just launch the intent with action media store action pick images, user can select only one image or video at a given time. But by default the type is like images and videos, but you can specify if you want to only user can select images or videos, you can define the type. And if you want to provide the custom length so that user can select more than one images or videos, the last line, the commented line, which is put extra, there is a constant that you can pass the value like more than one, which is in this case I set to 2. But this limit needs to be respect the platform limit. So every device, on device level, there is a limit for how many max images can be we can pass for this intent. And the line number 1, media store dot get pick images max limit, it provides us the number that needs to be respected when we want to provide the custom length for this intent. And currently this tool is only available for Android 13, but on the docs they mentioned that they are like the Android team, they want to provide a support for up to an Android 10, which is really cool. If that's gonna happen, then it solves a lot of problems related to like just removing the custom things that we are implementing for pick images or like managing permissions. And UI is also behaves differently based on the limit. So by default, when the limit is 1, this dialog is opened like in the half screen mode, so user can only select one image. But if we provide a maximum limit more than 1, then it opens in full screen mode and user can select multiple images or videos from there. So this is the new UI which is introduced for a clipboard. And when user copy any data, this is the screenshot that I took from Pixel. How it looks like that user can actually preview the content, and then there is a edit button next to it, so user can edit it and perform whatever action they want on their selected content. And if we mark the content as a sensitive, like for example in the bank applications, we don't want to expose the what is copied, we just show like in a password format. So I will show the parameter that we can set so that the content cannot be like directly visible, which is in case of non-sensitive. So in that case, user needs to perform extra action to see actually what is copied from your application. So here is the sample code, and if you see the description dot etc, I added the Boolean flag which tells the system that this content needs to be sensitive, and this flag is introduced in Android 13. But even if applications are not targeting 13, we can pass the hard coded value for that flag, which is documented in the last line, which is extra is sensitive, and based on this the UI will behave differently, which I explained in the last slide. So this is the quick settings placement API. Literally, I don't have any experience with creating like quick settings API, like how I can add the elements from my application to quick settings. But when I creating these slides, I just found this new feature, so I just added the demo, like how we can do this. So in the status bar manager, there is a new method which is added, which calls request add tile service. It takes the parameters like the component name for the tile service that we need to implement in our application. In my case, I have sample tile service. Then we need to provide the label for the tile, then the icon, and then it takes the executor, and it takes the lambda which is executed, like whether the whichever action is taken by the user, and it provides the result that we can check like what happened and just move accordingly. And this is how it looks like when we perform this action. For example, on button click, I asked for, hey, you want to add tile for this space, and this is the UI. It shows the label and icon for the tile, and if user wants to add it, it will add the tile in the quick settings. So for the intent filters, it doesn't matter if your application is targeting 13 or not, but if the targeting application, the intent that you are going to launch, if that application is targeting 13, then your application needs to be make sure that you are respecting the intent filters that are defined in the target application. Otherwise, it will show the error when you want to launch the application. There is a detailed article about the intent filters on the developers Medium channel. There I have added the reference to that you can check. But there are certain conditions like when these filters can be skipped. For example, if the intent is launched from the system or the root level, or if the intent is launched within the same app. For example, we are starting application within our activity within our application, not from any like for any other target. So, for example, I have this sample activity. I have added these two intent filters. For example, action send and data type is plain. And then when I try to launch this intent, I didn't specify the type, but if this doesn't work, and it will show me the error dialog like this. And this is the standard dialog. I just, if you see in the code, I just use the content from the like the error whichever is there, and it just shows me like you might forget to add the intent filters, or the activity is not found in the system that you want to launch. So for the per app language preferences, there are basically two ways. The first is like you want to provide access to this to the user, like from within your application, that your user can change the language for your application. For example, you show them the picker and they select the language, or you can contribute to the system level language setting where user can change the language. This is the new UI I will show you in the next slides. But how to contribute to that component is like you need to create a first a local config file, which is in this case under the XML folder in your resources, and you define the languages that you are going to support. For example, I'm supporting French and English. And then in the manifest file, we need to add the tag to the application tag, which is property, which is local config. It refers to that file. And that's it from now. If this is pretty much done. If you are already contributed to the system level settings where user can change the language on specifically for your application. So you go to the system menu options, then from there you go to the languages and inputs, and then there is a new like the option under the languages, which is called app languages. And because we have already defined those languages like the fields, and we added the tag in our application tag in the manifest, and that's the final screen. It shows all the applications that are provide support for multiple languages. And when you want to change language, you can change language only for that particular application rather than changing for the system. So this is for in-app language in language picker. If you want to provide a like you don't want that your user go and follow all those steps to change the language for your application, you can also provide a support for in-app language picker. And there are two ways. Like there is a platform level API that we can use directly, but that is only available for Android 13. But this the code that I'm showing is it's from the Compat version. It is Android X library, and it's available from 1.6.0 alpha 4. So I just took the sample code, like what are the methods required actually to implement the language picker in the application. So the first one is, for example, we show that language picker and user selected the language. We get the language tag for the selected language. If they selected the French, we just pass get the tag for that language, and then we call the set apps language, which is set application locales, and we pass the list that we get in the previous step. It will set the applications, change the application's language, and it considered as a config change, and your activity might go through the full on create on start process. So you need to take care of the like you survive this config change and doesn't lose any state of your application. And if you want to change, like set the language to the default, you just pass the empty local list, which is provided in the list in the API localized compare.get empty local list. And the last method is to actually get the application locales, like it provides the list of the languages that we are supporting for our application. So predictive back gesture, currently it's in, there is an animation for this, but it's not currently supported in the emulators, and it will be available after the final release of the Android 13. But how it can be implemented is like the one of the like the basic implementation is like if in our Android applications we don't have any custom navigation, or we are not intercepting the backpress like for the own activities, or we are not using the, I think there is a backpress dispatcher which we can use on the fragments. If you are not doing any custom navigation or backpress handling in your application, then we just need to add this one flag in our application tag, which is enable on back invoked callback, and set it to true, so that it tells the system that we are supporting the predictive back gesture for our application. But if we want to, if we have a custom navigation or custom back handling in our application, I have added the links in the references. There is a code lab that you can check. It covers all the different scenarios for how we can support for a predictive back gesture. And if you think that there is a lot of work to support this feature, we can currently, there is an option that we can opt out from this. But in the documentations it's mentioned that starting from Android 14 this is required. So if that's the case, we need to consider to actually work on this and figure out how we can support this new feature in our applications. So currently, if you want to check this, there is an option under the developer options. You go there and then you can just turn it on. But as this is not working, so it will be available only after the final release. So this is the Foreground service task manager. So because before we don't have like end user don't have basically control over the Foreground services. If they really want to see what's happening in their system, they go to the settings and then they can see what are the services are running. But now if you see at the bottom, like here, it says the one app is active, and when you tap on that, it basically show up the dialog with the currently whatever the Foreground services are running, and it shows the like action there, for example stop. And if user wants to stop any Foreground service, they can stop it. And also for the Foreground services there is no option actually to swipe them out from the notifications, but with Android 13 there is it's a by default turned on, so that user can swipe swipe away the foreground services related notifications from the drawer. And if you want to keep those notifications like stick there, we can use the set ongoing method on the notification.builder so that your foreground service related notifications stick there so that user can't swipe those. So this is the UX improvement for the media controls. Now it provides some more information in the for the media, whatever it's running, like the state, and then there is a current device which is at the top left corner. So when you tap on the device, it shows the full information that we if we want, like if user want to pair new device and want to change the sound, they can perform actions on there. And this is like not just for a mobile specific; it's for all device like tablets and some other devices that Android supports. And then there is a support for themed app icons. So if you see now, there is a dynamic color support for themes that we can derive the system derives the theming from the user's wallpapers and stuff like that. And there's additional support for even for the app icons. And if in our application we want to provide a support for themed icons, we need to provide a monochrome icon. It needs to be a vector drawable, and we pass it under the adaptive icon for our application. In this case, I provided the monochrome icon there. And then in the application tag, we use that adaptive icon to be our application tag icon property. But there are certain limitations for this. Like if the launcher is not supporting the themed icons, even if we are supporting it provides support in our application, it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't affect the themed icons will not gonna work. And if user doesn't turn it on at the system level, it will not work. So this is the process, like how we can enable, like the user can enable it. We go to the wallpapers and styles, and then from there is an option which is currently in beta, themed icons. We turned it on, and if you are supporting the themed icons, your icons or like the whole applications that store that, it will look like this. For example, in my case, I provided a monochrome icon, and it looks like that. So those are related to the Android 13 changes and behavioral changes, and these are some of the IDE improvements that are introduced in Android at last I/O. So accessibility scanner is basically introduced before, but I added here if you are if you are if you are not implementing accessibility in your applications, and if you are there is a specific tool for testing accessibility. It's available on Play Store called Accessibility Scanner, but now it's integrated in the IDE. So we can actually during the development figure out like if there are any issues related to the accessibility, we can fix actually before those issues are raised by the tools or like our QAs. And then there is a ADB over Wi-Fi, so we can connect devices using the Wi-Fi. Then the animation preview for Compose, there is a spot for that. And there is an improved device manager or picker. Now it shows like all the runnable devices, physical devices, all things in a single UI. There is a Google Play SDK index. So this is basically it shows it if you visit this Play SDK index, it shows a lot of libraries or third-party SDKs for different purposes. Like if you want to provide a support for in-app messaging, there are a lot of SDKs there. So based on their ratings and how many currently Android applications are using those SDKs, a lot of information is provided there. So it's better for decision making when we want to use any third party libraries in our application. And it's integrated in Android Studio. And then there is app quality insights like Facebook Crashlytics. It's integrated with Android Studio. So if you are using the Crashlytics, if there is any crash, it will shows it in the code and within the IDE, that you can actually see like what's happening with your application in production, and you don't need to switch back and forth for like Firebase dashboard to figure out what's happening, what's the issue. You can just immediately see all the issues in within the IDE. Then there is a revamped locat. Then in the electric eel, there is a live edit for compose. So we don't need, like, we can immediately see the changes that we are doing in our compose functions. It's basically a hot reload, I guess, in Flutter. Then there is a multi-preview annotations for Jetpack Compose. I will show you quickly after this slide, the code or the demo. Then there is a recomposition count. This is really nice one. Like, we can actually see in the layout inspection how many times our compose function or particular given composable recomposed when we are interacting with the composables. Then there is a device mirroring. So before electric eel, there is no support for that. So we use tools like Visor, or there is a SCR CPI to mirror our actual physical device to the screen. But now this is supported in Android Studio, so we don't need any additional tools for that. Then there is a visual linting. So it provides, like, if for our layouts, it shows a lot of hints and issues. It figure out the issues and provide information that how our application is look like on different device form factors, and provides the option that if there is something needs to be changed. Then there is a resizable emulator, and it's available from emulators 31.1.3 or higher. If you are not using that one, you need to update to see this in action. And the last one is the emulated Bluetooth. So these are the references, and let me share we have time. So yeah, we have 10 minutes. I will quickly show the Android Studio. So we will go randomly. So this is the first one, app quality insights. So I have added the sample integration done with the Firebase in this sample application. And if you see, it shows me all the information about where my application is crashing. For example, I have literally added the throw exception in my application, and it says, like, on main activity line number 98, my application is crashing here. So if you see here, I have added the throw here. So this is for the Firebase. And for the layout inspection, there is by default, this is turned off. If you see the second last option, it says show recomposition counts. So whenever there is a recomposition, it shows the count for each composable next to that. And for the screen mirroring or the device mirroring, currently I have a device, and it shows the device right there, and it's really smooth. If I'm performing any actions, it shows right away there, which is really cool. And it's gonna be soon stable when the electric eel is there, but right now it's in the canary channel. Then there is a preview annotation support. So rather than writing multiple annotations, like we want to see each composable with a different configuration. For example, night mode nodes, stuff like that. There is a annotation support added for that. Like, we define all the preview configurations in one class, and then we just use that preview device rather than copy paste all these configurations for our composables. So this is basically about the Google Play SDK index. So when we add any dependency for any SDKs, if you see now it's integrated with the IDE, so it provides me the hints like this has been marked as updated by server. And if you see more actions, like if we go to the more actions, it says like view details in the Google Play SDK index. So we get more insights within within the IDE, and we can perform actions based on that. And another thing is about the build warnings, or basically when we build our project, it shows the tooltip which says like if there is any improvements available for our application, because I already built my project. So there is a spot for actually check, because most of the time we added the Jettifier flag for the Gradle properties to, if we are using the old libraries for sport, for like sport libraries, and there is a check. And if we want to run Jettifier check for our application, it went through and figure out if there is anything is using that. And if you see now, it says like there is no dependencies that requires Jettifier, so we can disable it, and it will help us to like improve the build time for our application. And also like there is another hint for configuration cache that we can enable for our application. What next? So this is the resizable emulator that we can use, and this is the icon that you can see there, and we can change the options that we want to see your application. For example, tablet, desktop. It takes the little time on the first time, but after time it's like it will be fast enough that we can change back and forth. The next thing is about the thing that I have discussed about the accessibility scanner and the visual linting. So this is for that. If you see here, I have my layout is there, and I have like I have set the text color. If you see here, like very light on a white background, and if I go on the here, it shows me a couple of the issues that my layout currently is having. For example, touch target size is too small, so 48 dips is like the recommendation from material design. Then there is a no speakable text. Then the last one, in the accessibility, is insufficient text color contrast. And if we tap on one of them, it provides more details like what is required. For example, ratio needs to be 3 or higher. And the validation one is really nice because it shows me like, hey, you don't need to use bottom navigation bar for the given form factor for 600 dp or higher. We can use a navigation rail, stuff like that. Yeah, I think the last one is a lowcat. So I don't have, but this is revamped lowcat. There is a new search, the query based, like the key and key value parameter. We can search using different. There are different options for this, and it keeps the history. Like if we want is crash or stuff like that. Package mine, and we can have multiple windows too for device like this. You can create windows, and then there is option for formatting options are there. Like if you want to see the standard option, like the view option, then compact view, you can change based on your requirements. So yeah, these are the couple of things. There are a lot more improvements in the IDE that you can check, but I guess these are the one of the main improvements that I find. My favorite one is about the compose recomposition, because before that there is a custom recomposition highlighter implemented by a Google Play Store team when they implemented when they adopted the compose in their application. You can check, just Google it, and you can find the code actually how we can use this one in our composables to figure out how many times it gets recomposed. But now it's supported in Android Studio, so we are good. We don't need any custom implementation for actually figuring out what's happening with our composables. So that's all. Thanks, everyone. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.